Architecture is the manifestation of our will to make people happy.
Architecture is about creating life-enhancing, timeless places in Seoul.
For architecture student life is probably the most rewarding experience for them. So they will spend most of their time in the studio. They will experience a studio culture where they will stay almost like 24 hours with their colleagues, working on their design, working on their other subjects, and doing research together.
Architecture is always about relationship between human and human, and also relationship between human and the environment.
Architecture is about creating life-enhancing, timeless places in Seoul.
Architecture is the ultimate formation of combination between art and science that humankind have created.
It is a field unlike any other field because architecture, as defined very widely, is the combination of art and science. So it's able to accommodate a wide range of people from various backgrounds. So whether you're coming from a science background or an arts background or anything in between, it's a program of study that is very suited for everyone.
I would say superb. What's important is to ask them and to check whether they are ready and their perception of what architecture is matches with their personality, and they are not led by misconception of what architecture is. So we allow them to have programs, we allow them to have beyond the limit of studio and architecture experiencing in school, in class. They could also have workshops which allow them to go overseas and as well as virtual workshops. So that's this really new dimension of architecture education that I really look forward to see, and I do feel it will evolve further, and it's full of excitement. If you are good in art, it doesn't mean that architecture is appropriate for you. So that is the thing that you need to check first, right? But I support anybody who wants to do architecture.
Once you assist students to resolve their design issues, also it's very exciting to see them grapple with various issues, and at the end of it come to their design solution which gives you such a satisfaction.
If you look at the statistic over the years, not all embarking in architecture become a professional architect. And it's not a bad thing, you see, because architecture allow you to the knowledge and the skill that you experience and gain within the architecture education allow you to get involved in other fields. And you can get involved in other fields successfully. Doesn't mean that you have to be an architect alone.
They have to persevere for 5 years at least. It needs a lot of hard work and dedication, and need a lot of passion. At the end of it, it will be a rewarding profession and probably provide you the most job satisfaction.
If you want to pursue architecture, it cannot be like any other courses because it requires a much higher dedication. That's the first thing. And the good thing is that for you, if you are able to understand a little bit about the profession of architecture, that's a kind of prerequisite.
Welcome to the most exciting but very challenging program. where you will be experiencing the roller coaster ride in your life. Someone who is sensitive to what they see in their environment, and most important, a person who is very disciplined and has an opinion. And that is why in the training of architect, we have to get them to expose to this aspect of designing within context and within an urban context, so that their buildings are not just an individual contribution to the city, but then they actually form part of the jigsaw puzzle that make up the city.
One of the purpose of architecture is to do problem solving, and for me, problem solving is to ask that basic question of why. And this then led to an interest, I think, in teaching design. I'm very keen on history, and I also am very keen on taking students through a class on self-discovery. And I think self-discovery is, especially in architecture, is about understanding about themselves and understanding what affects architecture, not just in the field of architecture itself, but from other disciplines, which are, it can come from any discipline. How to discover new knowledge, and how to discover information that otherwise they think is not important. But architects design for everyone, and the thing that is beautiful about architecture is that we are able to do anything or in the given field that we are in.
Architecture is a technicality combined with art, so balancing between those two is crucial. So now the direction now with the serious concern of environmental and social issues. So to me, to assert the importance of sustainability and energy and resourceful care is crucial. As we know, architecture is about people, it's about caring. And when you do architecture, it's about professionalism. So you cannot run away from the fact that all these things are tied together.
We have to look at new technologies, new materials that can have a breathing walls that breathe to allow natural ventilation. And at the same time, we have to look at development that minimize the effect on our earth. So we have to prepare our students to tackle this issue, either through rigorous research, or probably more understanding of the climate itself, and also more understanding on materials, the new materials and technology that can be utilized to come up with a design that's more sustainable, that can provide more comfortable living to the occupants.
The core skill about architecture education is problem solving. Yeah? And in order for us to solve whatever problem, we need to ask the right question. And architecture education allow you or prepare you to be able to do that. Yeah? And looking at the future, although we may not be able to predict the future, but considering the skill and knowledge that you have, you will be able to adapt to a situation where it will be beneficial in solving the problem that face the world.
We really have to instill on the students the need to be sensitive to the values and the culture that we are.
And therefore, we take this context and hybridize it with the many approaches so that it forms a solution that is beneficial to almost all parties involved and the stakeholders involved. And I think that is almost the core approach of all our projects.
Architects should be aware of the impact of climate change. This is something that we have not thought about many years ago. But because of the severity of the climate, the disasters that we have seen lately, the natural disasters, whether it is earthquake, tsunami, and even the melting of the polar caps, has really made us be more aware of what we have to do in our dealing with the environment. rethink about our design approaches to make sure that these impending catastrophes and disasters will be managed. It is not sufficient just to depend solely on technology. Architects will have to be more creative, innovative, doing research as to how urbanization and planning and designing of cities will have to be in the future.
We take into consideration of basic elements of designing. For example, the elements. We always think about our weather and how that affects design. So it will depend. It will depend on the client's requirement, and it will vary based on the function of the building lah. But our primary objective will be to have a functional building.
We don't believe in a singular stylistic signature. We look at each project individually, and we look, of course, at climate, we look at location, we look at the cultural setting, and of course, the client's brief, also what the building needs to do. It's must be fit for purpose and all. But at the end of the day, we aspire to make good, wonderful, meaningful, uplifting spaces for people.
You must make sure that we don't actually intervene the ecology that will disturb the environment, disturb the pattern as how natural ecology works.
Where we will just respond to the client's brief and needs, and do the best in terms of the design as well as the production, and perhaps at the end of it, when the building is completed, the maintenance will be at the lowest cost possible.
Architecture is not about great building, grand buildings and what have you. Architecture is about people. No, architecture is about people. Why? Because whatever that you build, you design, is to be used by people. Today, we have forgotten that architecture is about people. Therefore, architecture is about enjoyment, being happy.
So there's a methodology which you apply, which basically has to do with the process, analyzing the needs of the client, really trying to answer the brief. What is the client's needs, and really wanting to produce something that the client will be happy with. So we go through a very rigorous interview system where we ask them many intimate questions. I even sometimes say, I'd like to see your house as you use it, supposing we're designing a house. And very often they're very reluctant to show me their house. I say, I want to see it in the morning when you first wake up. No, get up. Let me clean it up first. Don't clean it up, just leave it as it is. So basically trying to understand what is the nature of the job.
It's very important for me that the person has a big will to learn, has a big interest to learn. In fact, sometimes if that comes across very strong, that the person really wants to learn, wants to improve himself, wants to do good, that's more important than a wonderful portfolio. Of course, if the design is important, but we feel that working is your continuing education. And so the basic ingredients is more that passion and that interest and commitment.
Everyone must be able to contribute. So having somebody with multiple skills will help the team to achieve better results.
They have integrity. Second thing is whether I feel they're honest as people. And third, whether they have conscience. Basically, if you have conscience, then you're not prepared to do certain things. And whether the boss tells you to do it or whether the client tells you to do it, if you believe that it's not for the good of the user or for the good of the general public.
Architecture is the manifestation of our will to make people happy.
To me, architecture is always about relationship between human and human, and also relationship between human and the environment.
Well, architecture to me is making wonderful, meaningful places for people.
In a gist, architecture is common sense.
Architecture is about creating life-enhancing, timeless places and so on.
We have treated architecture as part of culture, and so it becomes part of you. So you have a sense of belonging.
Abstract, complicated, problem solving, passion,
agent of change,
and critical thinking.
Architecture is culture, which means that the community determines what architecture is.